Hi guys, welcome back to Cursed Book Animation, a channel where I describe what happens in books while poorly drawing the scenes. Today's book is We Are the Ants by Shaun Hutchinson, and I'll be doing a summary of the beginning of the book and I'll try to avoid spoilers. If you ask me what my favorite standalone book is, there's a pretty good chance I'll say it's this one. I was actually really into Shaun Hutchinson's writing as a teen. I really liked young adult as a teen because I feel like it was a realistic portrayal of how I thought and spoke. I've also read his At the Edge of the Universe and Feral Youth, and I have Violent Ends on my to-be-read list. His writing style is just so easy to read because it is young adult, and it's just like an enjoyable experience to read a book by Shaun Hutchinson. But what really makes this particular book special is the way that it's written. It's even a little different than some of the author's other books, and I can't really portray that writing in this video, but if you want to know what happens in the story without reading anything, well, here you go. Besides the writing, another unique thing about We Are the Ants is the main character's interpretation of things. Henry is in high school, and when I read this book for the first time, I was about his age, and was very much like seeing things solely as what Henry said they were. Now that I'm reading through it again, I'm seeing all of these warning signs of what's to come, but also, since I'm an adult, I'm seeing just how much the adults in this book really failed Henry. But anyways, yeah, meet Henry. He doesn't actually wear alien cosplay, but this book has aliens, so that's why I gave the main character alien antennae. Before we go any further, I would like to point out that if you do decide to read this book, there are a lot of things that could be potentially triggering. And even in this video, I'll be covering some sensitive topics, so feel free to pause this slide and look over the trigger warnings. They include things like suicide, neglect, and unhealthy relationships. So the first time Henry is abducted, he's only 13. He can hear his parents fighting about something, but he never finds out what that is. Because, surprise! It's alien abduction time. Yep. So Henry describes the aliens to us. They basically paralyze him and beam him up into their spaceship. They take his clothes and they do various experiments on him. The aliens don't have mouths. They don't speak. After the first abduction, Henry is found by the police 2 days later in a field outside of town. He was wearing a grocery bag for underwear, and as Henry describes it, he was covered in hickeys. He also tells us that his father left about 3 weeks after that. So his parents were fighting, and then he was abducted, and then a couple weeks later, his dad left. Yeah, things not looking so good for Henry. But now, 3 years later, and several abductions later, Henry's 16 now, and when the aliens abduct him this time, they place him in a chair instead of on a table, and he can move. In front of him, they have a projection of the Earth and a red button. They electrocute him until he pisses himself, and they show him the Earth blowing up. When Henry touches the button for the first time, they make him feel nice, but then it's all random until finally Henry is able to understand the connections happening and that pressing the button makes the Earth not explode. In addition to using radio signals, Henry is finally able to figure out that the Earth is going to blow up in the coming January unless he presses the button. This is September now, by the way. Thus, we start our journey on the central theme of the book, which is the Earth worth saving? This time he's dropped off not too far from home, and he uses a neighbor's trash can lid to cover himself. He hurries on home, he sneaks in through the window, and gets caught by his older brother, who tries to tattle on him, but their mom doesn't really care. Whatever. We see that Henry's grandmother has some memory problems and confuses him with his brother. We also learn that Henry's brother has dropped out of college, but has not told their mother. So, family dynamics. The current family is mom, brother, grandma. But we also get a flashback of Henry's father. His dad apparently used to take him fishing, but Henry would get motion sick, so his father stopped taking him. Of course, this makes Henry feel like a failure, and then, his dad eventually left the entire family. Henry was also dating a boy named Jesse, and Jesse hung himself. Even though he's gone, we continue learning more about their relationship throughout the book. Henry seemed to struggle even before meeting Jesse, but after Jesse kills himself, that seems to be really what sends him truly spiraling. Charlie is Henry's brother, and despite the brother being an adult and Henry being a high schooler, his brother relentlessly digs at him, like tattletaling, spreading rumors at his school, physically going after him in the form of nipple twists and punches. Now, as an older sister, I know that some sibling aggression is understandable, but again, Henry is 16, and his brother is a college student, or was a college student, and I don't know, it just seems like it's not age-appropriate sibling violence to me, but if you have a younger brother, let me know what you think. Henry's mom is kind of an alcoholic. I won't say she doesn't care about Henry because she does seem to occasionally worry about him, but I think her own exhaustion of life has really burnt her out. And I don't want to use the word neglect here because the mother does feed her children and talk to them, but her own problems just seem to really eclipse her ability to see red flags in her kids. Henry's grandmother is a very sweet woman. But she's suffering from dementia, and this seems to just be another thing that adds stress to the mother. Henry's mom wants Henry to come straight home after school to watch her. We jump to chemistry class, and we meet Mrs. Ferrichi, who Henry likes, and one of Henry's bullies, Marcus, who calls him Space Boy, and we also meet his minions, Adrian and Jay. This is where Henry tells us that his brother told everyone at school about the alien abductions. Also, it seems like the bullies know that Henry is gay, and they bully him about that too. That's probably just from when Henry was dating Jesse. And in chemistry, we also meet Audrey, who used to be friends with Henry, but not so much anymore. Mrs. Ferrichi does check up on Henry a little after class. And here Henry does kind of talk a little to his teacher. He asks her if it's possible for the world to end suddenly. And she explains like, oh yeah, but even though high school is rough, blowing up the planet is not the answer. So she's on to him, I guess. Here's the shocker though. So after class, Marcus meets Henry in the bathroom and shoves him up against the inside of a bathroom stall and kisses him. Of course, it's very aggressive. Marcus also tells us that his parents are out of the country for the weekend and he wants Henry to come over, which he can't because, gotta watch grandma. And then as they're getting ready to leave the bathroom, Henry asks Marcus what he'd do if he knew the world was going to end. But Marcus isn't really paying attention anymore, and when another boy enters the bathroom, it's like the moment's totally gone. And Marcus slams Henry into the wall, calls him Space Boy, and leaves. So, goodbye, Marcus. The boy who enters calls him a pansy. Henry wonders if Marcus would be different if he knew that the world was ending. We also learn here that Henry has asked Marcus to stop calling him Space Boy, but Marcus, of course, just brushes it off. Anyways, that was the beginning of We Are the Ants, which is one of my favorite books. It really is a must-read, especially if you're into philosophy and don't mind reading about things in the young adult genre. Here are some discussion questions for the comments section, if anyone is into that. Well, anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.